Good afternoon, I'm Larry Klayman. You know me as both the founder of Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch. I'm currently the chairman and general counsel of Freedom Watch. I'm a former federal prosecutor. Today we are filing an ethics complaint, as we promised, before the House Ethics Committee, and it's going to be one against one Jason Chaffetz. He is the chairman of the House Oversight and Reform Committee. And we've seen recently how he's been playing both sides of the street as he intends to leave as the chairman. We think there must be some hidden scandal that we don't even know about yet that's driving him out. But it's been reported that he's leaving in June to become a commentator on Fox News. Well, God forbid, Fox News can do a whole lot better than that, and I like Fox News, but I think that would be a big mistake. But let's talk about why he's having an ethics complaint filed against him. Because 3 months after the death of Osama bin Laden, there was a mission called at the last minute to have 30 servicemen, 22 special ops, some SEAL Team 6, fly into the Tangi Valley in Afghanistan to take out some terrorists. They were loaded up at the last minute on a Chinook helicopter, 1962 vintage, extremely slow. They were sent into battle, and people have to ask, why were so many of our best and brightest put on one helicopter? That's contrary to military policy and protocol. They were sent into the Tangi Valley with a circuitous route. According to the government at the time, after a crash occurred, and I'm going to explain that, there were no eyes in the sky. That's when you protect and see what's going on in the ground to protect the mission and to give them a heads up. They went into battle. They hovered for 13 minutes over what became the crash site. The helicopter was shot down. And after that, questions were asked by family members, some of which are our clients. Charlie Strange, his son Michael Strange, who was an NSA cryptologist who was assigned to SEAL Team 6, and Doug Hamburger, his son Patrick Hamburger, who was with the National Guard, very highly trained and decorated officer, and Sid Dugandara, his son as well, who was an immigrant from Thailand, a Buddhist, and fought for this country in a very valiant way. They all died. We represent them. And when the families asked for information about it, Obama said it would be forthcoming, but it never was. And a crash report pointed out that 7 Afghani commandos were substituted out right before the mission took off. And no one knows who they are. And we know about the green on blue attacks, how Afghans kill Americans. They're not our friends. As their Muslim brothers, they would side with the terrorists generally before they side with the United States, Taliban in this instance. Also, the so-called black box went missing. Well, you know, Afghanistan is very dry. The government said there was a flood. Well, there hasn't been a flood there since Noah's Ark. They said there was no eyes in the sky. They said that they would send these bodies back, but some of them were cremated. The son of Charlie Strange's son was cremated without his permission. And we've been fighting to find out what went on. And we went to see Congressman Jason Chaffetz, and at that time, the chairman was Darrell Issa, and he assigned Chaffetz, the co-chairman, to conduct an investigation. And it was all covered up. And one of his staff members, Jim Lewis, the former CIA guy, assured us that we were going to have a complete investigation. This went on for months. Well, when the hearing resulted, there were no witnesses there from our clients or anybody else of the families. They were excluded. And of the people that did testify, one was a political hack by the name of Gary Reed, who was an Obama appointee in the Defense Department, and he just said, well, bad things happen, you know. Excuse the French. Shit happens. Well, you know what? Shit doesn't happen without a reason. And the reality is that this was covered up. And after the hearing, Chaffetz, who had these little crocodile tears at the end, he's a real actor, came over to shake the hands of the families, and families were not happy, and neither was I. And I said, Chairman Chaffetz, when are we going to have a follow-up hearing to really get into what went on? And he just walked off. Well, years later, an individual by the name of Joni Marquez came forward. She was a targeter, also well decorated in the Air Force. She was indeed in Eyes in the Sky that night, and she knew what went on, and she called the mission off because there was no reason to continue. But yet, the top brass in the Pentagon allowed that copter to hover over the site for 13 minutes, which made it an easy shot for an RPG, which shot it down. That's a handheld type missile. This was all covered up. And we just found out what went on. And in fact, Joni Marquez, we've interviewed her, called and emailed Jason Chaffetz and told him about the information she wanted to provide, that there was a cover-up, and he ignored this. So this guy's compromised, this guy's dirty, and to somehow trample in the graves of our brave servicemen who gave their lives for whatever reason. I mean, was Chaffetz paid off? We need to find that out. What went on? Why is he leaving Congress right now? But we're going to ask the House Ethics Committee to investigate, and we're going to push them to investigate it, and we're going to investigate it ourselves. So in this video, we're going to insert a video of Circa News that interviewed Joni Marquez, who told the truth, who had went to Chaffetz. Chaffetz ignored it, showing that in fact this was a cover-up. And this guy's simply dirty. And when you hear him make statements to play both sides of the street, loves being on TV, wants to be friendly with the leftist media because he wants to run for governor of Utah and he needs those votes to win, leftist votes. He's been pelted at town hall meetings by people that come in there that he wants their votes. Recognize that he's a political hack. And I would suggest that you let Fox News know that it's not acceptable to have somebody like that as a commentator. And again, we're thankful for Fox News, but they can't have people like that. So go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org, see this ethics complaint, call in to the House Ethics Committee, demand a real bona fide investigation, and remember that we're your watchdog in Washington, D.C. and around the country. We're your private justice department. Support us. We're the only ones with the guts to stand up to someone like Jason Chaffetz, who I might add is a Republican. God bless you. God bless America. God save America. We don't need any more Jason Chaffetzes.
Retired Air Force Captain Joni Marquez can't get the image out of her mind. A Navy SEAL ejected from a burning U.S. Chinook helicopter. Then his heat signature on an infrared camera fading from red to blue as life slipped from his body on the ground.
We had to sit and watch that, and I think that that was probably one of the hardest things that I had to do, was know that that man was, dying on the ground.
For 6 years, Marquez has kept a dark secret, that the single deadliest American incident in the Afghanistan war could have been prevented. August 6, 2011. The day 30 Americans, including 17 elite Navy SEAL Team 6 members from the same counterpart team that killed Osama bin Laden, were shot down in a Taliban ambush in Wardok's dangerous Tangi Valley. Marquez's story changes everything Americans know about that ill-fated mission and what happened with Extortion 17. Army Rangers had called in for an air weapons team. Marquez said the assault helicopters killed 6 enemy fighters, but 2 had managed to survive. The Rangers were out of danger, but Extortion 17 was still en route. The official Pentagon memo says the 2 fighters disappeared into a grove of trees and were never located. Marquez disputes that.
They were lying about it to the families, covering up what actually happened.
Monitoring the night surveillance cameras, Marquez and her crew watched as the 2 surviving Taliban fighters crawled away in an open field, rounding up more insurgents in a nearby village. Later, the crew watched as cylindrical objects, believed to be RPGs, were moved by the Taliban near the area where Extortion 17 attempted to land.
It's just one of those things where you know that it could have all been prevented.
Rules of engagement, changed under the Obama administration to prevent civilian casualties, kept them from firing against suspected targets without permission. Marquez says she and her team begged the command several times for permission to engage the enemy or turn back Extortion 17 in a drama that played out for precious minutes.
We knew right then that they weren't trying to listen to us.
U.S. Central Command did not comment when asked by Circa about Marquez's account. Joni's story conflicted with the final military finding, but a recently declassified military interview conducted with her crew in Afghanistan supports her account of what happened to Extortion 17. Marquez's aircrew told investigators the 2 escaped insurgents and others were in their line of sight. 6 to 8 personnel were running around the compounds to gather enemy reinforcements. Marquez's gunship was denied the chance to take out the Taliban, all but sealing the fate of those aboard Extortion 17. Aaron Vaughn, a father of 2, was one of those SEALs who died that day. His parents have long doubted the Pentagon's official story, but found hope when Marquez reached out to them 3 years ago.
I think she's one of the bravest women I've ever known in my life. She said that I would rather spend the rest of my life in Leavenworth than keep holding on to these secrets I know about what happened that night.
Marquez says her life has been devastated. Retired from the Air Force, she is still haunted and wants the rules of engagement to change. A military lawyer who served 20 years advising special forces and an expert in ROEs says there could now be a silver lining to the Extortion 17 tragedy, at least for those still fighting in the battlefield. Jeffrey Adicott says Marquez's bravery could bring changes to the military's current rules for engaging the enemy.
Right now, the rules of engagement are absolutely bizarre.
Adicott says there are tens of thousands of U.S. troops still in harm's way in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the rules cause them to second guess when they can defend themselves.
They pour the blood of our soldiers out like water on the sand.
They lost a dad to this war. They lost someone that meant everything to them. And for me, I wasn't able to prevent that.
It took a lot for Marquez to come forward, but she says she's doing it to save lives.
I won't rest until some kind of justice is served. If that's something that doesn't happen, then obviously the ROEs to change, for them to be realistic.
For Circa in Washington, I'm Sarah Carter.